I'm not good with history.
The U.S. did not have a military to even come close to fighting off a European power.
I'm glad we're friends.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Is your favorite couple from the Midwest, us. Anyway, we're going to be checking out when did Britain and America stop hating each other. I came across this and the title sounded really interesting, so we were going to check it out. I don't know for sure if there was like legit hate ever, but we did go to war.
Yeah.
There was a war twice.
We had confrontations.
So there was obviously...
I remember something about that in history.
Some butting of heads. And yeah, it'd be interesting. My guess is going to be a little bit before World War One, because obviously we were allies for World War One.
I honestly really don't know because I'm not good at history, so this is all new information to me.
I know we've had, I'm pretty sure, a pretty strong relationship since World War II.
Probably, I would assume so.
And then obviously with more and more technology and the interface, like this type of channel, and just being able to have interactions with people all over the world.
I think we're good buddies now.
At any time.
Are we considered allies?
Yeah.
Okay.
I definitely think it's taken away like a lot of stereotypes and stuff that people have of each country because you actually interact with them. Anyway, guys, that's what we're doing here today, checking this out. Before we get in the video, please like, share, subscribe, turn the notification bell on in case you haven't.
You don't want to miss out.
Let's just jump right into it, and then also comment down below if you agree with whatever they say in this.
Yes.
If you agree with the timing.
Correct us if they're wrong, because we don't always know. And with that, we'll get into it.
It would be an understatement to say that Britain and the USA's relationship got off to a rocky start. In 1812, Britain and America were at war, but just over a century later, they were fighting shoulder to shoulder in World War I, which obviously...
I mean, he just totally blew past the Revolutionary War, but...
Well, we already knew we didn't like each other then, so...
At war, but just over a century later, they were fighting shoulder to shoulder in World War I, which obviously raises the question, when did Britain and America become allies? There had to be a point where both went from actively disliking each other to working alongside each other. Now, before continuing, it's important to note that even in the immediate aftermath of independence, America and Britain still had strong economic ties. This isn't to say that things were always great between the two, and there were some pretty major conflicts of interest in the years after the War of 1812 finished. The first, and perhaps the most obvious, was the Mumro Doctrine, established in 1823. This was where the United States, by threat of military intervention, declared an end to any new European colonial adventures in the Americas. And for Britain, this was potentially a problem because it had economic interests in South America. In reality, though, it wasn't too much of a problem at all, because in 1833 it landed a force on the Falkland Islands and America did nothing. In 1842, the US did...
Well, yeah, too. Like,
I mean, I wasn't there, I don't remember that, but I remember learning about that.
No, especially back then, the U.S. did not have a military to even come close to fighting off a European power.
Interest in South America. In reality, though, it wasn't too much of a problem at all, because in 1833 it landed a force on the Falkland Islands and America did nothing. In 1842, the US did warn Britain against interference in Hawaii, which Britain did heed because America's international power was certainly growing. And it was this fact that America was a rapidly growing great power whose interests could no longer be ignored, which would dominate Anglo-American relations for the following century. So, the next major event which could have changed the Anglo-American dynamic was the American Civil War, which broke out in 1861. Britain had already abolished slavery at this point, and so you would think that it would have preferred the Union over the Confederacy. But you'd be wrong. Now, Britain had no great affection for the Confederacy and its slaveholding practices. Its preferential treatment was purely economic, mostly due to cotton imports. Britain did consider formally recognising the Confederacy, and Anglo-American relations were severely harmed by what's called the Trent Affair. This was where the US government seized a ship with Confederate diplomats headed for Britain, which to Britain looked like the USA telling it who it could and could not speak to. In the end, cooler heads prevailed and Britain didn't get involved, although it did construct a very powerful warship, the CSS Alabama, for the Confederacy, and after the Civil War was over, Britain paid compensation to the United States. Thus, only 50...
I mean, that's kind of dumb that they had to pay compensation to us. That doesn't make sense, but... I am actually really surprised that they were willing to side potentially with the Confederates over the Union. Because the Union, I guess the South was really the raw...
money makers?
Well, no, the raw materials that they could get shipped over to England.
They were getting a lot of their...
Whereas the North was more of the industrial side.
Yeah.
I guess I understand for that reason, but...
I'm not good with history.
And after the Civil War was over, Britain paid compensation to the United States. Thus, only 50 years away from World War I, Britain and America still didn't really care much for each other. So what changed this? Well, relations actually started to improve during Britain's border dispute with Venezuela in 1895. This developed into somewhat of a crisis, and the US intervened and arbitrated, siding mostly with Britain. For Britain, America had conducted itself in a well-mannered fashion and given Britain most of what it had wanted. And for America, by accepting American arbitration, Britain had yielded its right to influence South America. The other reason for Anglo-American rapprochement was simple: converging interests. America had emerged from its civil war a more centralised industrial power, and after its defeat of Spain in 1898, it possessed a global empire too. And for Britain, things were rapidly changing as well. Its empire and global position was being threatened by Russia and the newly formed Germany. Britain had long practiced a policy of isolationism with respect to the European powers, but since they too were industrialising, this had the potential to threaten Britain's position. Thus, her most natural ally seemed to be the United States, since it was half a world away and had its own sphere of influence, plus they spoke the same language and shared many values. It was at the turn of the 20th century under President Theodore Roosevelt that America and Britain really started to become friends, particularly with respect to one foreign policy stance. They didn't like Germany. This agreement allowed for Britain to move its fleet away from its Caribbean colonies back to Britain to defend itself from Germany, while security in the Caribbean would fall to the US. After the First World War broke out, Germany's actions such as U-boat attacks on American shipping and the Zimmermann telegram, combined with the fact that if Britain and France lost the war, they wouldn't be able to pay their American loans back, assured US intervention on their side. And from that point onwards, both the US and UK were largely in the same camps, barring a couple of mishaps here and there. I hope you enjoyed this episode and thank you for watching.
Well, that's kind of interesting.
It was one of those like really fast.
I know, I was
like,
trying to keep up. Oh my gosh.
Things. I didn't really know though that about Teddy Roosevelt getting like protecting the islands on behalf of the UK.
Yeah,
in
that's
the
interesting.
Early 1900s, I guess, late 1800s.
It's like a favor. Maybe he wanted to be on good terms. Like it was his idea that kind of brought us to that point where we could like, hey, you're better as an ally than an enemy. Not that we were, it didn't seem like we were super intense enemies, really.
Not at least since 1812.
We've had our
the
disagreements,
thing is,
but...
I mean, English has such a influence on America and how it was shaped, our architecture, everything.
Yeah.
Is because so many immigrants came from the UK
originally, yeah,
especially English, not England. So yeah, I don't know if there was ever like true hate between them. The Revolutionary War maybe was like the highest point, maybe. But again,
well, yeah.
I don't know if it was like on the people side or if it was just more on the politics side.
Well, even then, on the people's side, I don't remember, at least from our history, ever being taught, like, oh, the bad British, the bad whatever. It was just more like, no, we just want to do our own thing, so let us do our own thing. It was never like this racist hate or anything against them by any means.
There was also, I know during the Revolutionary War, a good portion of the people that lived in the United States, or it wasn't the United States at the time, but they were called, I'm pretty sure, the Tories. They were English sympathizers. So they actually agreed with England and wanted to stay under the crown even though they lived here. And I'm pretty sure several of them actually did end up going back to England while the war was being fought. But all in all though, like I'm pretty sure the UK is still one of our greatest allies, if not the greatest.
I mean, they're
like closest. We're definitely like we're just so intertwined. I can't imagine
as a superpower and to another superpower. I would definitely want them on our side versus opposed. Not on our side. What am I saying? Anyway, you know what I mean. I'm glad we're friends. But that was interesting. That was kind of the history behind it.
So I was kind of right though, like late 1800s, 1900s.
Yeah, but not much before World War One.
When America really started pushing out trade and stuff.
Yeah. Well,
as we were growing stronger as a country, we were more of an ally as opposed to just like, oh, you're just some weak little peasants or whatever. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because we were building our own empire and becoming a superpower that
I don't really think we became a superpower until World War II.
I don't know what actually designates us as a superpower, but
a superpower means you can fight a war and defend yourself
at the same time.
Yeah, you can be attacked and fight. That's what superpower is.
Would you have to prove that? Like it has to have that situation come up?
Or just the influence you have.
I suppose.
It's pretty much whoever has the biggest military.
I feel like we've had that for a while, though.
We've had since World War II.
Even if we didn't have an active military.
Like right now we are on the verge with China. Like China's like competing to be the next superpower.
Okay.
And I don't see why there can't be two superpowers technically. Yeah, China right now is the closest to surpassing, because they have surpassed the U.S. in several things.
Yeah.
On a military stance. Anyway, though, regardless, was a very quick but interesting video. Like you said, I'm very, very glad that we are allies with the British because they are pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Let us know some of those fact checks down below. Obviously, we still don't know a ton about history. We are learning, though.
It's too fast.
With that being said, guys, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Please be safe, take care, look after one another, and cheers.